Please welcome the founder and president of Blue Jean Nation, Mike McCabe.
Thank you, and good morning. How many of you have heard me speak before? You see? I actually told the board, maybe I shouldn't speak at the revival. Because everybody's heard me speak. And they ganged up on me and said, no, you're speaking. And so you're stuck with me, and you're going to have to endure me one more time. So, but before I give you my thoughts, I want you to hear from someone else. And that's somebody who has been a guiding light for me, and that's Mahatma Gandhi, who I've read much of what he wrote. I've studied what he did. And Gandhi once said that our greatness lies not so much in being able to remake the world as in being able to remake ourselves. And to me, that's what Blue Jean Nation is really all about. It's about us as American citizens remaking ourselves at a time when that is needed more than at any time in living memory. So, over the course of years, many years, but particularly over the course of recent months, I have had the great blessing to be able to travel this state and talk to every imaginable kind of group. And I've spoken in bowling alleys and cafes and bookstores. I've given 2 talks in barns and one in an old feed mill. And I've had a chance to talk to so many people over the course of many years, but particularly in recent months. And what I've heard inspired me to write a book. And it created the impetus for Blue Jean Nation to be formed. So I've been energized everywhere I've gone. I've been inspired everywhere I've gone. But everywhere I go, I hear something else too. Sometimes it sounds defeatist. Occasionally it sounds powerless. Every once in a while it sounds hopeless and even helpless. And I want you to know that I get where people are coming from when they sound like that. Because there are an incredible number of barriers that have been erected to true democracy and real representation. I get it. There is voter suppression. There is partisan gerrymandering of political boundaries. There is consolidation of control over media in fewer and fewer hands. There are ever greater sums of money contaminating our elections and our political system. You got a few dozen families that are pouring as much money into elections as millions of individual donors. And just because there are millions of individual donors shouldn't make anybody forget that this is a country of 300 million people. And most people don't give anything. Those who give small amounts, and a few dozen families can trump them all. Millionaires and billionaires who are able to pay for elections and end up owning our government. Yeah, that is all true enough. There is growing secrecy and hostility to open government laws and traditions. That is true enough. There are courts packed with partisans. That is a reality. And so I get it when I hear people sound defeatist and hopeless and sometimes even helpless. I'll grant you, the odds are not in our favor. But you know what? The odds have never been in our favor. They've never favored common folk. Not ever. The odds didn't favor the abolitionists. The odds didn't favor the suffragists. The odds didn't favor the civil rights movement. The odds didn't face the progressives and populists who were up against the robber barons in the Gilded Age. The odds didn't favor West Virginia coal miners who were being exploited. The odds didn't favor children working in textile mills. The odds didn't favor the original Republicans who gathered in that little white schoolhouse in Ripon, Wisconsin. The odds didn't favor the women's rights movement, the gay rights movement. The odds didn't favor Gandhi. The odds didn't favor Malala Yousafzai. But you know what? You've got to remember that the abolitionists ended slavery. The suffragists got women to vote. The progressives beat the robber barons. The coal miners got unions. The textile mills eventually were forced to respect child labor laws. Civil rights activists ended Jim Crow. Gandhi led the Indian people to independence, and Malala is making it possible for girls to go to school all around the world. The odds didn't favor any of them. And so, yeah, the odds are stacked against us. There's no question about that. The obstacles that we face today are enormous, but they are not new. None of the obstacles we face are new. They are as old as the hills. Voter suppression and gerrymandering are not new. They were not invented in 2011. These practices are as old as the Republic. And I'll tell you, the effects of gerrymandering will not be overcome through redistricting reform. Because those currently in office will not pass redistricting reform. Gerrymandering will be overcome through political realignment. Gerrymandering will be thwarted by changing just enough hearts and minds of just enough voters to flip some districts that have been gerrymandered to go one way and flip them the other way. That's how we will defeat the willful rigging of elections, is by changing hearts and minds of a few voters. Yeah, they've been able to take 51-49 districts or 50-50 districts and turn them into 55-45 or 56-44 districts favoring them. That means that 6 or 7 or 8% of voters have to be persuaded to stop voting for them, and they're out of power. That's how you defeat gerrymandering. And we won't beat money by amending the Constitution. We'll amend the Constitution when we beat money. When we loosen and eventually break its grip on our own minds, then we will amend the Constitution. And I know all the political professionals and the consultants and all those others with the if you can't beat them, join them mentality say, well, what you're talking about is unilateral disarmament. I am not telling you to unilaterally disarm. I'm saying we should fight with different and more powerful weapons. We can't beat money by doing what money does. We will beat money when we do what money can't do. You've heard the song. Money talks, but it don't sing and dance and it don't walk. It don't love either. It don't marry. It can't nurse a sick child. It can't comfort a dying loved one. We have to beat money, not by doing what money does, but by doing what money can't do, through human relationships. We will beat money when we finally come to the conclusion that we don't need what all that money buys. We'll beat money when we realize that we don't need pollsters to tell us what to think. We can think for ourselves. We don't need teleprompters and speechwriters to put words in our mouths. We can speak for ourselves. And we don't need ad agencies to sell us to our neighbors the way they sell potato chips and beer and laundry detergent and hair care products. We can build relationships. We'll beat money when we do what money can't do. And that is why I am fond of saying that if Blue Jean Nation could only do one thing, if we had to choose just one thing to focus on, my choice would be to do whatever we can, to make whatever contribution possible to loosening and eventually breaking the grip of the professional political consulting industry that lords over our democracy and our society and over us. And I'll just tell you this, when democracy is rescued, it will not be rescued by professional politicians and consultants and ad agencies and pollsters and speechwriters. It will be rescued by people who don't practice politics for a living, who have a life outside of politics. It will be rescued by people who have this odds stacked against them. It will be rescued by people who are forever in blue jeans. Thank you.